When it comes to that, in the past there were energetic parasites that got to cash in first, slash get energy first, and they misused it until now the conscious collective in this age of Aquarius has caught up, and now we're putting responsible divines in positions of responsible power. And what our divines create is obvious. They're not creating destruction, so we can have this talk. Especially, for example, consider what's happening in Michigan, where there's political crime. Like there's sabotaging that went down, especially there. So we really have to have these talks, because you people can't pretend like, oh, political crime is it's not, but no, it's very prevalent, and we unbiased divines will put a stop to it. Because as Claudia always says, Claudia could have manifested in any brief body. The thing is, Claudia has plenty of lessons to provide this respective community that Claudia has to help. But Claudia has plenty of divine brothers and sisters in all subgroups, and we're all working together to accomplish our objectives. And that's the reason why we manifested in this respective age of Aquarius. So we can have a discussion pertaining to the problems that have to be solved. Whether that's those criminal organizations sabotaging when there's a better energy source, than using destructive fuel that harms the environment and the organisms in that environment. Example, jet fuel. Example, car fumes. Example, liquor stores. Example, all the trash you'll find in these 99-cent stores, or whatever the case may be, like in any of these stores, these chips. They don't give a fuck about our youth. And so they throw these chips that have viruses in them. These youths eat those chips, for example, over time, those viruses are eating away at them from the inside, and then they develop cancer and all this different stuff. And then the kids, when they grow, when their bodies grow into quote unquote adults, why is it they have this? Why is it they have that? It's because of the poison they had you consume when you were younger. And that's the thing. Like, somebody has to say this. Somebody has to. Somebody has to. We have to improve this realm. This realm will be improved. It is being improved. So all of that dispenses chemicals that will harm your brain, that will make you easier to be manipulated and used to be self-destructive in whatever community you find yourself in. Still, we are to be responsible with the power we each have to create pleasant experiences in any situation. That's why we're making this brief talk for you lovelies. So it can sink in that you have to do your best first and foremost. Back to the topic of glials. When there's a lower amount of glials in one area of the brain, major depressive disorder will occur, while schizophrenia is caused by parts of the brain having great amounts of glials. Glial cells play a role in learning and behavior by affecting synaptic connectivity during the development phase of the brain. Now we dive into the kinds of glial cells. Two special types of glial cells called oligodendrites and Schwann cells produce a layer of fatty substances called myelin. We'll start with the oligodendrites. It produces myelin specifically for the neurons in the brain and spinal cord mainly. That's the central nervous system. Meanwhile, the Schwann cells produce myelin for the neurons of the body, which is geared towards the peripheral nervous system. Myelin wraps around the axons, creating an insulation and protective sheath. And there are bundles of axons moving together that is called cables. In the central nervous system, that's called tracts. In the peripheral nervous system, bundles of axons are called nerves. This is a unique feature that Schwann cells have for their myelin. That's that the feature can serve as a tunnel that damaged nerve fibers can reconnect and use to repair themselves. Just remember the myelin sheath as the part of the neuron that insulates and protects the neuron, but that isn't the only function it has. It's able to speed up the neural messages that pass through the axon. The spaces where the axons bump are called nodes. Myelin sheaths and the nodes can be imagined as a train cart. Take a nice look at the example diagram shown in our video. The nodes are not covered in myelin. Sections of the axon that are myelinated or not myelinated will have different levels of electrical properties at each node. Those features mentioned affect the speed that the electrical signal is conducted down the axon. Neural message is an electrical impulse. When the neuron message travels down an axon coded in myelin, the electrical impulse is regenerated at each node and seems to jump or zip rapidly through nodes down the axon. The neural message goes faster down the axon that's coded as opposed to an uncoded axon of a neuron in the brain. Example: for a disease of multiple sclerosis, the myelin sheath is destroyed due to the damage of an individual's immune system. The immune system has to be protected at all costs. It has to be strengthened from a young age so it can remain consistent. When the myelin sheath is destroyed, it results in loss of neural functioning. There are many symptom signs in MS, and so by understanding how the body works, etc., you become more powerful and responsible. So let's continue talking about electrical messages in cells. Think of it like this. Your entire body conducts electricity, but someone purposely sabotages you so that you don't conduct enough, and so that leaves you in a weakened state for all the man-made diseases those parasites make, while they also invest in the distractions that keep you oblivious. Read along the lines there. Read along the lines there, because that has to do with the deaths of many loved ones you may have had. So, and it's going to cause the misery of someone you care for if that is your demise. So you have to be very wary of that. Seriously, take a moment to pause the video and think about that. Replay what's being said a couple times. Get a paper, write your thoughts. If you stimulate parts of your body that you purposely weren't taught because of lack of awareness, etc., you can conduct more electricity into your body, like when you charge and store energy. But then you realize porn is placed by those parasites as a means to keep teens and parasites in adult bodies stuck in a loop of lower consciousness, survival mode, and an animal mentality that rapidly deteriorates the carbon body that the entity is in briefly. And essentially, that was how corporate parasites were capitalizing until now. So the thing is, most supposed teachers of a material are scrubs, and so they regurgitate what they've been programmed to remember as a means to get a paycheck from someone. That does not have your best interest in mind. So we're only going to recollect the significant components of this next talk. Listen closely. We're going to go nice and steady for the lovelies. Let's all look at this diagram of ions. You see that? There are positive ions and negative ions, both outside and inside the cell. You have that so far. Remember that the relative charge inside the ion is negative, while the relative charge of ions outside of the cell is mostly positive. Why is that? Because of the diffusion in which the ions move from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. So think about this. Your body is made of liquid. It is affected by the moon and the sun. When water flows through a river, it is not contained in a box.